The following podcast has been rated PGN. Parental guidance is neglected.
Boy, it's been a long time since we've had a little father-son chat.
I am your father.
Father, if you can hear me, I failed.
Don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I'm here with my dad.
I know what you're gonna say, son. And you're right. You're right.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
I've abandoned my boy!
Hey everybody, welcome to PGN Podcast. Parental guidance is neglected. Once again, I'm here with my younger version of myself, Jackson Burns. I gotta move this light.
Opening question of the day.
Okay, go ahead.
Do we look alike?
No, you look like your mother, and you're just
What
you're
do you
just
think
as
I
feminine
inherited from
too.
you?
That's what's weird.
Wow.
You know what's weird is that you have my hair, but I grew out of those curls.
Yeah.
And you haven't yet. But
Although Mom always says that I have her grandpa's hair,
well then maybe
which I don't know if that makes sense to me.
then you have nothing from me.
Does hair skip?
No, I don't know.
Wow.
Do you think when people see us together, they automatically assume that you're my son?
I don't think so. I think that when I think of similarities, I think we have the same body type. Like I think that we both
Sexy.
have long legs.
Right.
Yeah, sexy.
Mm-hmm.
We both have long legs and shorter torsos. We also both have very small butts. I think that's something that we share.
Wow, really? I feel like
I don't know. You don't feel like we're lacking on the butt department?
I feel like I squat quite a bit, and you're right. My butt still stays flat. I would say yours is flat. Mine is flat-ish.
Because you do squats and I don't. I
Yeah.
think that's the difference.
Yeah, and one day
Yeah.
you will. It's the PGN
Gotta get my squats
podcast, where we talk about squats and buttocks and everything else that movie fans like. Two generations, everybody, talking movies. We are back. Jackson just returned from a 2-day shoot on the island of Catalina, helping out on a senior thesis at his school. I actually just came from an ADR session. For you film nerds.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's called additional digital recording or added digital recording. See, I don't even know what it is, but I did it. Just had to do some lines
Voiceover work
for a show I did. So we're working professionals. Him and I. We're
not
some dorks.
We're braving it out here in LA.
Sitting in a basement in Cleveland, like pretending like we know the biz, we know what's going on. So post all your questions.
There's someone listening right now who is in their basement in Cleveland who's like, "Oh man,
I know. Well, fuck those guys.
Really?
I'm not listening to that show anymore." Wow. How did your shoot go, Jackson? Overall, I know I've talked to you a little bit about it.
It was good. Yeah, it went smoothly. I think that the confusing thing for me was, well, first off, after the first day, it felt like the entire island knew that we were shooting. Like it's very, very small.
Well, Avalon. I told you can run around the city of Avalon, which is the only city on the island of Catalina, in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's very, very, very small. And also most of the shops were closed because it's not like
off-season,
tourist season.
Yeah.
Which begs the question from me, which is, why do people go to Catalina?
Well,
because I'm walking around and I'm like, well, they have restaurants and beaches and this just sounds like every coast in California.
Yeah.
Like it didn't really make sense to me.
Well, one, it is a little more isolated, and two, there's a lot to do on the island as far as nature. I mean, like Avalon, the city on Catalina, is the size of a dime, but Catalina, which I've run around, is very big. And it's a city that can hit capacity, so it's never going to be over. Like even in the summer, if everything fills up, it's not like huge sky rises of people trying to fight for beach time or. So, and remember, a lot of the people live there. There's still a good number of people who live there. I knew a nurse who worked in their little hospital, and they do have a police force. They've got a little tiny golf course tucked away in the back. I mean, there is stuff to do, but it's more like an old people retreat. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Although I will be honest with you though. I've been there a few times during the summer, and the bars can get a little hopping at night. Everyone kind of knows everybody.
right.
You spend a weekend there. By the end of the weekend, you know
Right.
everybody.
You're like, there's Jim. Yeah.
Yeah, so there you have it. Thanks for joining us on Catalina Talk. We're here breaking down all the California islands and the adventures you can have on them.
Maybe we should listen to a travel podcast. I feel like we would have really good
I
commentary.
love how, for some reason, whenever we get an episode where we have so much to cover, we end up going off on some tirade, like we have nothing else to do in our lives to get to. But the shoot went well, though, right? You're saying it went good.
Yeah. Everything went well. Yeah.
All right, good. And anything coming up? Are you jumping right into something else, or do you have a little time off?
I'm still working on the same production. We just had a day off because traveling was a lot, so I'm back in it tomorrow, and then shooting more Sunday through Tuesday.
Gotcha. Well, there you have it. One day we'll be here talking about his films, and if they suck, I will tell them they suck.
He will, and he will.
I'm very honest when it comes to that stuff, for the most part. It is the PGN podcast, Parental Guidance, 2 generations, talking movies. We've got a lot to cover. As we are taping this, the Oscar nominations came out just a few hours ago this morning. We're going to not really break them down. That's something we'll do more as when we give our predictions of who will win, but some reactions, some people who may have not made the list, some who may have. We're also going to go back and talk briefly also about the Golden Globes. Those happened a couple weeks ago. We're not going to go down every award there, but maybe some highlights, some things that stuck out to us that we remember about them. And we did actually see a couple movies together. Yeah. Believe it or not. So I know lately it's been tough with our scheduling. I have seen things and he's seen things, but I know it's always more fun when we have both seen them and both have our thoughts and comments. But before we get to all that, and Jackson's Art House Corner, which is very interesting this week, I've seen the list. Here's a few movies that I'm just going to throw out because, as I told you, I've made a pact. I am going to see every movie this year. And by that, I mean...
it's ballsy. I'll give you that.
So here's the thing. When I say I'm going to see every movie, or at least attempt to see every movie, I'm going to see the mainstream movies, and then as many of those little art house ones. Like, listen, there's a new movie out this week called Inheritance that I've heard could or could not be worth seeing.
Right.
It's playing in one theater at Universal Studios, up on their City Walk for 1 week, and the only showings are 10:30 at night.
Right.
So I'm not going to go see that this week. I'll have it on my.
You'll wait.
I'll wait and see if it gets put. But if I have to hunt a film that bad, I'm not going to go see it. But anything that I can see
it's also a miracle if you're even awake at 10 p.m.
Dude,
these days.
I'm not even making it through Jeopardy. You know that.
Yeah.
Jackson has watched me fall asleep on a couch now, quite a number of times in an upright position. But I have seen some of the new movies. I'm going to go over them real quick here, and then kind of find out if Jackson has any interest in seeing them at all. If you follow me on Instagram, and you should, at Regan.Burns, you may have already seen my preliminary thoughts on some of these movies. The very first film of the year was called The Damned. It has already left theaters. It was a small art house horror film from director Thorder Paulson. It was about a widowed owner of a fishing crew in the 19th century Iceland who finds herself, as well as her very small crew of men, in a moral dilemma on whether or not to save the lives of the people on a sinking boat just off the shore when they themselves are struggling to survive. It's a really neat concept for a film. It's obviously shot on location there. If I'd say the main character of the film is cold because everyone looks freezing at the time. It's one of those films, Jackson, where you probably go, man, I bet that's a cool shoot to be on, until you're on the shoot and you go, the equipment is freezing and fighting stuff.
I was freezing just being on Catalina with the winds. That's how, I was like, oh my God, I was wearing 3 layers.
You're not ready to be on.
Yeah,
you're not going to be on location in Iceland for
one day.
For,
maybe if I. If production pays for my new jacket, I guess
Yeah,
maybe I'd be able to brave it. But
Jackson's like, I'll edit it back at the hotel. Australian actress, I forget her name. I don't know. She's in this well. I've recognized her briefly. I probably should have wrote it down. I know Joe Cole is in this. He's from Peaky Blinders.
What's it called?
The Damned. I actually like this quite a bit, Jackson. It's one of those, hour and a half comes in. It's not really as much of a horror film as it is almost a fable, or I'll say a bit of
Odessa Young.
A ghost story. Odessa Young, that's her name. Thank you. Here's the thing. The first movie of the year is almost always a horror movie. It's almost always a horrible one. I give this one a lot of credit for really good performances, being stylish. The Damned gets a B from me, so not too bad out of the gate.
Okay, before you move on, where do you think you know Odessa Young from? This is a crazy tie-in that I had no idea existed until just a second. But we have talked about a movie that she has been in, like in one of the first few episodes we ever did of this podcast.
Really? I don't know. Downton Abbey?
Yeah.
Downton Abbey or something? She's Australian.
We used to do a segment where we would have the audience pick one great movie and one terrible movie, and we would review and watch both of them.
Was she?
And she was in one of the movies that was supposed to be great, and we didn't like it so much that we didn't finish it.
That was that
Dad, she
weird...
was the lead in Giant.
Giant? Are you serious? Oh, we didn't finish that.
Yeah.
That was horrible.
She was or The Giant. Yeah, which we didn't finish. So I guess redemption for Odessa Young now that she's been in.
She's
The
actually
Damned.
very good in this. So congrats, Odessa.
Yeah. Well, she was not the problem in the Giant.
The problem with that is, I believe, as I remember, is nothing happened. We were like, there is nothing going on.
Well, you also couldn't hear anything. It was like completely.
The audio was
everyone
bad.
was whispering, and the music was very loud, and it didn't make. Yeah, it was rough. It was a rough one.
Also out in theaters right now is Den of Thieves 2, Pantera. That's writer Christian Gudegast, who also wrote both of these Den movies, as well as other Gerard Butler projects like Plane and London Has Fallen. Gerard Butler is back in
Greenland.
this. Yeah, I love his character name in this. He's Nicholas Big Nick O'Brien. Everyone calls him Big
Hell
Nick.
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He is still in pursuit of the bank robber who got away, Donnie Wilson, who's played by O'Shea Jackson, son of Ice Cube. And this turns into pretty much a heist movie trying to steal some diamonds, so it's got a little bit of that Ocean's 11 team put together. And then it's one of those who's zooming who kind of things where, is someone really good or bad? Are they really working together? How will the tides turn? It's passable enough. I barely remember the first Den of Thieves. I'm not going to remember this 2 weeks from now. But it gets the job done just slightly below average at a C-.
All right.
Also out this week was Wolfman. This is from writer and director Leigh Whannell, who did a great job with The Invisible Man a couple years ago.
That was a great
a really good reboot and adaptation of that story. This is with Julie Gardner from Ozark and Christopher Abbott, who was fantastic in Poor Things. I still remember him from that.
Yeah.
The guy who comes in and just steals every scene at the end of the film. He was also in Craven the Hunter, but we'll try to forgive him for that. I don't want to spend too much time on this one. I don't think it works nearly as well as The Invisible Man did. The effects are good. They do some really cool things with special effects as far as the way the Wolfman sees the world compared to regular humans. This is really not one of those, the full moon comes out and he howls and he turns. It's kind of like an infection that slowly takes over him. Spoiler alert, there's a good Wolfman. There's a bad Wolfman. You get a lot of Wolfman on Wolfman.
Very nice.
Again, about an hour and a half, which is what most of these first-year movies are. It's definitely a step back in this genre of trying to reboot all these classic monster movies, but just slightly below average. Wolfman's going to get a C- for me. And then the big surprise that came out this weekend that's doing very good with the critics, and Jackson, I do not know why, is One of Them Days. This is from director Lawrence Lamont. This is
I did see this was getting good reviews.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes has really high scores from both the critics and the audiences. A lot of my friends have enjoyed this film. I did not laugh one time. Keke Palmer, who I think is a superstar. I think she's got so much charisma.
Yeah.
She's fantastic in Nope. Whether you like that movie or not, she is just. I think she's a movie star. And SZA is fine in this. They work very well together. They have a good chemistry as these two roommates who. This is one of those clunky things where the whole movie takes place within 24 hours, and there's a countdown of clock of they've got 10 hours to come up with the rent, and the next thing you know, they're being pursued by a gangster, and the next thing you know, they're mishaps at the blood bank and the loan department and love triangles, and it is so stupid. And maybe people need mindless fun after the elections and everything, but it was not mindless for me. Again, the only thing that keeps this above an F for me is the fact that I think Keke Palmer is just good. D- for one of them days. D-. I did not enjoy.
Wow. Well, okay, all things considered, January is considered kind of the dump month. And it looks like you kind of, there was one that you didn't love, but there wasn't anything where you were like, I can't believe they made this.
No. I haven't feel
I think all things
dumped
considered
upon.
It wasn't terrible. Yeah.
Right. Now, with that said, Mark Wahlberg's
February is coming.
Flight Risk opens today.
Oh, we have Flight Risk.
Yeah.
We have, I think, 11,000 new movies about a normal guy who gets wrapped up in some, something bigger than himself.
That stars Dennis Quaid's son, Jack, is he's in every single one of them. And then finally, I'll just mention Netflix's first big film of the year is called Back in Action, and it's following the same retread as every other Netflix movie. Let's take some big stars like Jamie Foxx and Cameron Diaz, who play a married couple of spies who retire and then get sucked back in. No chemistry between these two. This movie is phoned in big time. Glenn Close shows up in this thing, who's continuing to go.
Glenn.
I don't know why she's taking paychecks, but this is not going to win that elusive Oscar for her. Really bad action, really bad CGI. Again, I've had some people go, this is mindless enough, but if it's just stupid, that's where I check out. A D+ for Back in Action. So Netflix, once again, up to their old tricks, taking these huge, big budget action, they did what? The Gray Man, it's...
Oh my God, don't even remind me about the Gray Man. I can't believe I watched that.
Yeah.
doesn't look like a real movie.
So there's just this sling of these streamer movies that, back when I was a kid, they would have put them in theaters, and now they realize they're just subpar movies. So that kind of catches you guys up what's going on in the box office. I'm not saving those for when Jackson sees them. Oh, someone named Spam is calling me. And we'll put that stuff to rest so that when Jackson does eventually go to see a movie again in September, when something good comes out, we'll have something to
I've been to the theater multiple times. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's true, but most of the films you've seen are the good ones from the award season. So.
Well, it's their first time actually being released in theaters, so I'm counting it. I've been.
I understand that.
Well, yeah.
We both, however, did get out to the theaters, and we saw Mike Leigh's new movie Hard Truths, which I believe Marianne Jean-Baptiste just got nominated for a BAFTA for. Did she get BAFTA? She got the BAFTA nomination.
Yeah, the BAFTA.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the Oscar thing a little bit later. We also were out and saw The Last Showgirl, which was a big surprise Golden Globe nomination for both Pam Anderson and Jamie Lee Curtis. Did they make the Oscars or not? We'll talk about that in a second. But before we get to both those movies, Jackson, what else have you seen in your world that I have not, whether it's a retread of an old classic or something you curled up with?
Yeah, it's been a big... I'll start with my rewatches, just because I don't want to talk about those too much. It occurred to me the other day that I have not seen No Country for Old Men since high school.
That's a good rewatch.
It's been like 5 or 6 years since I've seen it. So I sat down, and Brooke had never seen it, so we watched it together. And it's just perfect.
Yeah.
It's a perfect movie. I had forgotten so much about it, and I think that I was also just too young to understand what was going on. Not in like a story sense, but just in like a what the commentary was.
Right.
And it's just, they're so good at building such a crazy world, and the ending is so perfectly constructed. It's perfect. I think it's Roger Deakins' best work, probably. Yeah, No Country for Old Men is a
cinematographer,
perfect 10.
No Country for Old Men is kind of my Shawshank Redemption in that it's the movie that's on a lot, and if I'm flipping around and it's on, and I'll be like, you know what? I got 20 minutes. I could watch this scene.
Yeah.
Or, oh, we've gotten to the motel moment. I could watch this.
Call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that kind of film where I feel like I've seen it 20 times, but I know a lot of that's been in fragments or, I'll tune in and listen to Tommy Lee's monologue at the end or what.
It's so perfect. He's so good.
Yeah, he's great. So I don't know about you, but No Country for Old Men is A+ for me and always will be. It's one of the best films.
Yeah,
one of the best films of our generation.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else?
I also, as far as rewatches go, you know what? I went to go see Nosferatu for a second time.
Okay, now
Brooke hadn't seen it and she wanted to go.
Let me ask you this. I'll interrupt. What grade did you give Nosferatu on the show the first time you saw it?
I gave it an 8 out of 10.
An 8 out of 10
viewing.
Okay, so my question: has that grade changed after a second viewing?
Yes,
it has.
Yes.
Didn't like it as much. It's now a 2. No, am I right? Is that
no?
it?
It's not a 2. It's not a 2, but I didn't like it as much. It's funny because I was scrolling through the podcast, the last episode, and I was listening to my review of Nosferatu, and I did a whole thing where I was like, I think on a rewatch I'd like this more, and I just didn't. And I think that it's because I still am in awe, but I wasn't as in awe of the camera work that I was able to focus more on the story.
Okay.
And I just really wasn't that interested in Aaron Taylor Johnson's story. I know that we both said that last time, but that really affected my watch this time around. Most of the scenes between him and his family, I felt just meandered and were undercooked.
Gotcha. You're not in the not in the minority. There's been a little bit of backlash that people kind of went a little too nuts at first. So. Which kind of teases something else Jackson and I are going to talk about. We've both seen a few movies, Hard Truths, The Last Showgirl, A Different Man, which I'm going to talk about just a little bit. And we are going to revisit, after those 3 films, our top 10 list and see if there's anything in or out. And I bring this up because Nosferatu, I believe, was on your top 10 list of the year film. Whether or not it
was,
or maybe it was, maybe it still is, maybe it still isn't. We'll find out a bit later. So, but you didn't look at the list. You didn't care for it that as much, huh?
No, I didn't. I still liked it. I still had a good time. Everyone's still fantastic in it.
Right.
The cinematography is unreal. Very excited that he was nominated for an Oscar. But that was my big theater rewatch. And now for my last 2 rewatches. You knew it was going to come to this at some point. This week, David Lynch passed away.
Yeah.
And that really, whenever I think of my favorite filmmakers, he's not a name that usually comes to mind. There are films of his that I love. Right. I'm a huge Twin Peaks fan, both the movie and the show. Mulholland Drive is fantastic. Eraserhead is fantastic. But when I found out that he died, it hit me really, really hard. That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I think that for a lot of reasons, I think that one of them is that he's such a figurehead in filmmaking. He's a titan of the industry, whether you like his movies or not. Probably is the most influential director, was the most influential director alive and still continues to be so. So the day that he passed away, I sat down and I watched Fire Walk with Me by myself, which is my favorite movie he's ever done.
Okay.
And then me and a big group of like 10 people sat down to watch Blue Velvet. And I'd seen both those movies before. And they're just really good, man. I don't really know what else to say about it. I think Blue Velvet I didn't love as much as I did the first time, but Fire Walk with Me is still such a powerhouse of a movie. The performances are unbelievable. Some of those edited sequences I can't even believe. And then Blue Velvet, obviously, I mean, Dennis Hopper, Kyle MacLachlan, Laura Dern. It doesn't get better than that.
Right.
But I did want to read this quick thing that I wrote for my review for Fire Walk with Me about his passing, because I think that this is an important moment for movies and for me as well.
Please do.
So this is what I wrote. Today, David Lynch is dead. Tomorrow and for the rest of eternity, his spirit lives on, woven into the body of his work. History will say that David Lynch was a surrealist master, capturing the transcendent emotions ever present in us all. But what Lynch symbolizes to me is earnestness. Earnestness in self-discovery, earnestness in creating on his own terms, and most importantly, earnestness in love. Nobody has more love for Lynch's characters than Lynch himself. His camera treats his stylized personas with a dignity like no other. We weep for Laura Palmer because Lynch has shown us without judgment the complexities of her life, her terror, her family, her lovers, her friendships, and her charity. This portrayal does not exist without the strongest love emanating from her conception as an idea to her image on the screen. Today, David Lynch is dead. May he live forever amongst our discussions, dissections, conversations, arguments, tears, laughs, experiences, dreams, and finally, our Garmon Bozia. So yeah, that's what I wrote for David Lynch. Rest in peace to the great master.
Since we're talking about, we said we'd talk a little about David Lynch. I have a very mixed bag of emotions when it comes to David Lynch films. And I wrote down basically his 9 main films. He's done some other stuff, but the mainstream ones. And his first main one, Eraserhead, I hated. The Elephant Man, I appreciated, but disagreed with some creative choices. Dune was a train wreck. Blue Velvet is one of my favorite films of all time. I had so much fun at Wild at Heart. I think it's just a really off-the-wall, bonkers, fun film. I loved the first season of Twin Peaks. I hated the second, and I was lost by the time Fire Walk with Me came out. I absolutely was confused by Mulholland Drive, but I could tell something was trying to happen there. And then I despise Lost Highway. Now, here's what I have to say. Is every one of his films, whether I loved it or hated it or was confused by it or thought, wow, that was weird, it elicited a strong emotion from me. And every single one of those films, I still remember clear as day, parts, scenes, entirety of. And that's the mark of a filmmaker that, listen, he never ever was trying to please anybody but himself. So I think one of the things that Lynch is going to be remembered for the most is he was the most non-compromising director of our time.
Absolutely.
He didn't give a shit what the studio said. He didn't give a shit what the audience said. Certainly not what the critics said. He's going to do it the way he wants to do it. And I'm sure that he loved all of his films. Hopefully, sometimes the people, they make a movie, at the end of it, they go, I just hate this. This didn't turn out the way I did. From everything I've heard from him, he made the film, he edited the film, he did it the way he wanted to do it. And you have to have mad respect from anyone who tells the studio, go fuck yourself. I guarantee you there was no studio that watched Lost Highway and went, we got to get this out there. We got to market this. This is, you know what I mean? They're probably like, how do we get people in the seats to, because once word of mouth gone, and you got to really appreciate him for that. And again, I can talk about other great, like Scorsese, any of them. You can go, I love that film. Yeah, that was okay. Or what'd you think of this film? You're like, nah. And to me, that's kind of like, it doesn't elicit the same kind of passion. I can argue about how great Blue Velvet is as much as I just cannot stand Lost Highway. And he elicits passion in his films, whether it's good, bad. You never watched a David Lynch movie and were ambivalent to it. You thought about it. Yeah. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
He was so unique that to this day we use his name as an adjective.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
For certain images and emotions because he was able to put to screen a feeling that no one else had been able to accurately describe.
Trillion people have tried to imitate him since he found any success.
And still do. Even movies that came out this last year. The Beast, I know, was massively influenced by David Lynch. I Saw the TV Glow, massively influenced by David Lynch.
Right.
And continue to do so. I know video games, TV shows, I actually see a lot of David Lynch in the Fargo season that we just watched.
I would bet you.
So
I would bet you the Coen brothers said they're somewhat influenced by him as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
all right.
Yeah, that's my piece on David Lynch. But alas, we trudge forward into the rest of my my list. That was all of my rewatches. These are some new first watches that I've had of some older movies. I sat down to watch Birth. This is a movie that came out in 2004, directed by Jonathan Glazer, who is now known best for Zone of Interest and Under the Skin. It stars Nicole Kidman, and it's a really interesting story about a widow who is approached by a 10-year-old boy who claims to be the reincarnation of her dead husband.
Yeah. Did she get an Oscar nomination for that?
I don't know.
I'll look.
Okay. I'll start with what I liked. I liked how seriously Jonathan Glazer approached this topic. I think it could have really easily fallen apart with someone who could have made this story up on more laughable circumstances. But it kept a sense of seriousness and like, no, really, what if this actually happened? That kept me intrigued. And I thought that Nicole Kidman had a really good performance, and I thought that especially the kid also had a really great performance as well. But outside of that, I didn't love this. I wanted to like this more. Obviously, I'm a massive fan of Zone of Interest. Under the Skin is also a great piece, and I know me and you are both massive fans of his first film, Sexy Beasts.
Love.
Yeah, Sexy Beasts is so good. But this movie felt like a transition period. This is the movie. Jonathan Glazer only has 4 feature films, and this was the movie that came in between Sexy Beast and Under the Skin, and it just felt very transitional. It felt a little bit half-baked, and it felt like it was the start of something that he would only perfect with time. And so Birth for me is going to get a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. She was nominated for a Golden Globe, did not win, and Critics' Choice, and no Oscar.
Yeah. Which is fine. I think that she's had better performances. She was still great, but I've seen her do better work. The next movie I have to talk about is a movie called Fat Girl. I'm not even going to say anything about this movie. It was horrible. Fat Girl gets a 1.
Okay.
That's my that's my review.
Okay. Should I know anyone in it or who directed it or why you found yourself watching that?
It's a French movie I've heard really good things about. It's in the Criterion Collection.
Huh.
I've made it a point to try to watch more female-led films this year because I realized last year that I only had like 1 or 2, which is just embarrassing. And so I hate to dunk on this movie, but it's just this movie. Oh my God!
You know it's kind of funny, and I don't know the movie. I don't know anything about it. It's just kind of funny. You go, you know what? I'm going to start watching movies that are centered around women with strong stories that give them the respect and the dignity that they deserve. I'm going to start with this movie called Fat Girl.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not even. This movie was really, really good for the first hour and 20 minutes of it.
Oh, jeez.
And in the last 10 minutes,
well, that must have been a really bad ending if it took you from it was really good to a 1.
What if I told you that the 14-year-old girl who plays, like in real life, the 14-year-old girl who's the main character in this has a rape scene in the last, and I just think we can't do that, right? Yeah. That's a little bit
too much.
That's a little too much for the art. So that just kind of
the French, they just
right.
They're not
like, come on.
They're not happy till they're doing something taboo and disgusting and horrifying. All right.
But I've got a few more. I'll trudge through real quick.
Oh, you're not trudging through the last 2. I'll tell you that. I already know your list. You think you're going to trudge through it, but
there was a movie that's soon to leave the Criterion Collection that me and my buddy Jackson, whose also named Jackson, wanted to watch, and it's Laura, directed by Otto Preminger, who's best known for Anatomy of a Murder, starring Dana Andrews and Gene Tierney, as well as one of the best supporting performances I've ever seen by Clifton Webb. And actually, that's where my first critique comes into. Clifton Webb plays the gayest character I have ever seen in cinema, and of course, they never mention it because this movie came out in like the 40s.
Right.
but he's so good, and the movie starts, and you think it's going to be about him, and it's not. And I spent the entire movie just wishing that Clifton Webb's character would come back. Waldo Lydecker was his character name.
Well, the
which is just
movie's
so
not
awesome.
called Waldo Jackson. It's called Laura.
But I wish it was, because Dana Andrews is terrible in this. Vincent Price is terrible in this movie. I
forgot.
Totally dragged the whole thing
Vincent
down.
Price is in that. Yeah.
Yeah, ridiculously poorly cast. Laura is a murder mystery that just did not hold my attention. It tried to do a weird love story thing, but Dana Andrews apparently is just allergic to reacting with his face. I think that he had the same monotone delivery for pretty much every single one of his lines.
Laura got 5 Oscar nominations for art direction, screenplay.
People love it. Yeah.
Director. Clifton Webb was nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Thank God.
And then it won Best Cinematography that year.
It did have some pretty good shots.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll buy it.
There you go.
I buy that. But overall, Laura
What's it get?
fell a little flat.
What's it get?
It gets a 4.
A 4. Ooh.
Yeah.
I look
and
forward to
speaking
the
of movies that
sequel,
are leaving
Waldo.
the Criterion. Right. In another vein of movies that are leaving Criterion soon, I sat down to watch my first ever Michael Powell movie, best known for his work with as Powell and Pressburger with his directing partner. But this was his
What have they
one
done?
of his solo films.
What would I know them from?
The Red Shoes, Black Narcissus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Scorsese is a big fan of them. But this is a movie that is really famous because it broke a lot of censorship laws in England when it first came out. It's about a man who by day he is a first AC, which is the job that I do. He pulls focus on film shoots. Mm-hmm. And at night he goes out with his own camera and he films himself murdering women, basically, for like some big final art project.
What's that?
Very, very interesting story.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I was really into it, actually. Wow. There was a lot of things. There's this running motif of before you never see what he's doing when he kills the women. You just see their reaction before it happens. Ooh. And towards the end, you find out that what he does is he has his big knife out and he walks slowly towards them. And before he kills them, he presses record on the camera and he points a mirror at them so that they're watching themselves. It's like he says that it's the ultimate way to elicit fear.
Oh my God!
Is to see yourself feeling fear.
Holy crud!
It's very, very dark. It had a lot to say about the power of images, the power of film, how intoxicating filmmaking can become. And usually I'd like this thing, but honestly, Dad, it felt like an undercooked version of Camera Buff, which would come later that I made you watch.
Yeah.
So I didn't love it, but I respect it for what it is. I thought that, I'm going to try to pronounce this name right, Karl-Heinz Bohm was really good as the lead.
If you're listening, we're sorry. Sorry.
I think he
butchered your name, not me.
I know. I'm sorry. But overall, nothing to write home about. Peeping Tom gets a 6. And then for the last 2 movies that I still have more just to talk about what we saw in theaters.
What were the last 2 movies that you saw, Jackson, in your art house corner?
So
what are those 2 movies?
Do you remember last year when I was like...
Here we go, everybody.
I was like, oh, me and 2 of my friends did a Godfather marathon. Well, Cambria, who was one of the people who was there, was like, you guys asked me to do this Godfather marathon with you. Now you have to sit down and do a High School Musical marathon with me.
Wow.
And so we did. We did not finish the 3rd one, which is actually funny because we didn't finish
Godfather 3 either.
So it kind of mirrors similarly. Well, there's 2 movies that I watched, High School Musical 1 and High School Musical 2.
Which one was better, Jackson? Which one? Was it Empire Strikes Back? Was the second one the Empire of the series?
No. The first one was better, marginally.
Marginally better?
Yeah, marginally better.
This is Zac Efron, right? Zac Efron.
Yeah, this is Zac Efron
Vanessa,
and Vanessa Hudgens.
Yes.
And Ashley Tisdale.
Yeah, a little after my time. I can't really interject any thoughts on those. What was your your favorite number, Jackson? Which one have you been humming?
They did a really cool basketball one.
Oh,
that was pretty cool.
You like the basketball one?
Well, I think it's so funny because we didn't finish the 3rd one, but the first 2 are shot like a Disney Channel original, and I don't know what happened, but the third one starts, and it was like night and day.
Like
it
on
was
an
like
iPhone
a
kind of thing?
massive budget increase.
Oh,
the third one was like unreal, like professional equipment. We're getting like moving sets. They do an Inception thing where the stage is turning while he's dancing inside of it.
Wait a minute,
and I'm like,
and
this
that's
is
the
High School
one you
Musical.
decided to turn off? The one where they actually got a budget and actually could start doing things?
We had to go. It wasn't because we didn't want to. We just ran out of time. I'm supposed to finish it this weekend, I think, with them at some point.
Oh,
but
I'm sure you will. So,
and I will.
I have to ask this question. Some of your friends found it so painful to have to sit through the Godfather movies that for revenge. I mean,
it was.
I would
only
be like,
it was only
thank
my
you.
producing partner Cambria. She wasn't upset about it, but she was like, "You guys asked me to watch this with you, and we spent a whole day watching movies that you wanted to watch.
Right.
Now you have to pay it forward because both of you have never seen High School Musical." Because we were always ragging about her being like, "You haven't seen The Godfather?" And she's like, "No." And she's like, "Well, you haven't seen High School Musical, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do High School Musical."
Wow.
And so I gritted my teeth and we did it. And
Look at
yeah,
you.
High School Musical 1 gets a 3, and High School Musical 2 gets a 2.
Wow. If there was a drinking game
Yeah.
to High School Musical, I'm not saying you did or didn't play one, but and you went back, is there every time Zach smiled, or is there every time a character says a catchphrase?
No, every time someone walks in wearing the stupidest looking hat you've ever seen. I don't know what was going on.
It's a
It's
hat?
very like early 2000s, like, I've got a purple fedora on. And it's like, why is he doing that?
Oh, it's hat.
So yeah,
it's
that's the
movies.
thoughts on High School Musical.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, that's been my recent selection. Should I talk? I think that every other movie that I saw, we watched together, with the exception of Nickel Boys, which I can either talk about now or later.
Well, here's what I'm just because it's up before we move on to it. I'll make a deal with you. If you will watch, what were the first two movies in the Worst Person in the World trilogy?
The Oslo trilogy?
Yeah.
It was, I remember the second one. What was the first? Shoot. I'll tell you right now. Reprise was the first one, and then
Reprise.
Oslo 31.
Oslo 31.
Or Oslo August 31st.
August 31st. And then The Worst Person in the World. If you can sit through all three of those movies with me, I will, for your sake, sit through all three of the Kissing Booth movies with you. I feel like that would be a fair trade, right?
Yeah, I'll accept that. Yeah, I guess. Well, the problem is that I have to be there for the Kissing Booth trilogy.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
That's true. You have to be there to see.
Have you not seen the other two? You haven't seen Oslo?
I have not.
or-
I have not. I have not.
Yeah, that one's really, really good.
Yeah. Oh,
Reprise is good,
and
but it's not.
you
great.
know what? Before you get to Nickel Boys, speaking of Renate Renezve, I think that's her.
Oh, yeah.
Renate Renezve. I saw A Different Man, which she was in. And she was the lead in The Worst Person in the World, and she's also in A Different Man. That's the movie that Sebastian Stan was nominated for a Golden Globe, but got a nomination for a different movie at the Oscars. About the disfigured man who goes through a procedure that makes him beautiful, like Sebastian Stan, and then finds his life confronting another man with the same type of disfiguration. I'll tell you this, Jackson, when I sat down to watch A Different Man, I saw it on the plane. I had to go to New York last week. 30 minutes in, I went, I'm going to have to change my top 10 films of the year because I was really loving the first third or half of A Different Man. But then it took a really, I think, complex and unnecessarily weird turn. And I will tell you this, the last 10 minutes, I think it's one of my least favorite endings for a film of the entire year. I think they completely blew it on that. But with that said, hey, Sebastian Stan is having a moment. I have not seen The Apprentice yet. I know you have. And you've told me he was very good in that. You did here on the show. He's definitely having a moment. And, I don't look, he's got Thunderbolts coming out and everyone knows him as the Winter, Bucky the Winter Soldier from the Marvel movies. But he keeps taking roles like this. He's going to be someone we're talking about for a while. Unfortunately, though,
Agreed.
Writer-director Aaron Schimberg seems to want to take this to kind of an absurd level that I thought just killed the entire first half. So A Different Man for me gets a C-. Does not change my top 10 films of the year. Jackson, I know you went and saw Nickel Boys, which
I did.
which I reviewed on the show a while ago. It did not make my top 10. I admired it. There was a lot of things I liked about it, but the movie didn't really resonate with me. It is a film that's gained a little bit of momentum in award seasons. We'll talk about if it did or didn't get stuff in the Oscars. I do remember walking out of it, though, and looking at your mother and going, I think Jackson will love this. Didn't really hit with me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. Tell me, what did you think of Nickel Boys?
Before I say anything about the movie itself, I watched this. Thankfully, it was playing in a theater close to me, so I didn't have to drive all the way into LA to see it or anything. I watched it, and I stepped out of the theater, and when I got home, I was scrolling on my phone, and I saw that it is bombing at the box office right now.
Not doing well.
Completely bombing. If you are listening to this right now and you have not seen Nickel Boys, I implore you, please,
I was right.
Please go see Nickel Boys.
I was right.
This is the best movie of 2024.
Oh, someone's list is changing. I told you.
I
knew you
cannot
would.
believe that this movie exists. It is so many things. I think that I was really nervous going into it that it was going to get really that the way it's shot from a first-person perspective, and so you're constantly looking as if you're the person, an actor in the movie.
Right.
And I was worried that was going to be like, I don't know, it was going to get tired and overdone and be kind of gimmicky.
It did for me a little bit. It did. I have to be honest.
I could not disagree with you anymore because the moments that it chooses to not be in first person become so much more elevated and exciting. And they make you think about why you're not actually in their perspective at certain moments. The twist at the end, I had no idea.
Really?
I would have never in a million years seen that coming.
All right.
And it's just, I saw this with my directing partner, Jackson Beebe, and we spent the whole 20-minute drive back home just figuring it, like piecing it together, just being like, oh my God, and when this happened, that was totally foreshadowing for this.
Right.
Or I just, the montage work in this movie, the cutting, the multimedia use. There's a moment in this movie, I couldn't believe that they did this, but there's a moment in this movie where a scene happens normally, and then to transition into the next scene, there's just like 3 seconds of digital grain on screen. And and you're like, oh my God, what the hell? But everything comes together at the end. Once again, this is a movie that I think would never exist without David Lynch. Funny enough, and just because we were talking about that, there were many, many moments that I felt were nods to him.
Okay, I don't know if I saw that, but I hear you.
I just couldn't believe it. Performances were incredible. The direction is so strong. I cannot believe that this was not nominated for cinematography.
Yeah, I was just going to say it did not get cinematography. That. I know. I knew.
First off, you know me.
Yeah.
You know that I walk into a movie and within 5 seconds I go, that was shot in film and that was shot on digital.
Right.
And I'm almost always right.
Right.
This movie completely fooled me. I had no idea. I had zero idea. Jomo, I believe is the DP's name. Unbelievable work. I could talk about this movie forever.
What did you?
The ending. This is a moment in this movie where we cut to the present, or not the present, but the 70s. And he hugs someone that he met in the juvenile detention center, and they pull away, and the guy has now become the younger version of himself. And it just doesn't get any better than that. I just tugs in your heartstrings in all the right ways.
Speaking of that, that scene and the flash forwards, if you will, in the bar, what did you think about the body mounted camera? And for those who haven't seen the film, it is the majority of the film, which takes place in the 50s in this juvenile detention center in Florida. When there's flash forwards, we see one of the characters and where they've gone with their lives. And there is a scene in the bar where instead of being shot from his POV, what they did is they mounted a camera on the actual actor. And it's
called a snorri cam.
Yeah, and the camera is now behind him. So instead of seeing it from the POV of his eyes, you're kind of seeing as though the camera is behind his head. So you actually get to see some of him this time. Did you like that? Did you find that? Obviously you did. You love the film.
Well,
but
okay. So
I thought that was an interesting choice,
yeah.
and I wasn't quite sure I got why that moment had it.
Nickel Boys is a movie about a lot of things. One of the biggest being generational trauma. It's a character study about kids who went to a juvenile detention center, black kids specifically. I think in the 50s or 60s, and were treated terribly. The place, it was called Nickel Detention Center or something, and about how it was basically modern day slavery, unlawful deaths happening constantly with the kids. And the first moment that they do that camera thing is when he's about to get whipped. They do a quick change from his POV into the Snorri cam.
Oh.
Right before he's about to get whipped.
Oh, I don't know
and
if I
they do
caught
it
that.
a few more times when he's in the detention center.
Oh.
And so for me, whenever we're in that perspective, we're still in his perspective.
Right.
But he's disassociating. You know, he's
Gotcha.
trying to be somewhere else. He's not in
Gotcha.
his own head. He's
Oh,
trying to.
that makes
And
sense.
so for the bar, the bar for me was very much that same thing where he's reliving trauma, and then obviously we end up finding out that maybe
Yeah,
we're not
don't
looking at the
spoil it.
person
Don't
we thought
spoil
we
it.
were,
Yeah,
but-
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm
yeah.
I'm so proud of myself. I went and saw that movie. I think I saw that
Yeah.
movie in late October, maybe early November at the Directors Guild, and I saw Ramel Ross speak afterwards. And listen,
I can't believe that. That's so
Nickel
cool.
Boys did. We're going to talk about the Oscars in just a bit. Nickel Boys did get nominated for Best Picture, and a lot of people said that's it's one of the ones that was on the bubble. It kind of snuck in. It's a bit of a surprise, and I couldn't be more thrilled for him. It did not make my top 10. It was certainly right up there with the honorable mentions. But I am excited because he seemed like a really smart and down-to-earth kind of filmmaker who definitely loved this material in this film. So, well, I'm just thrilled.
Yeah.
In a moment, we are going to, as I teased, revisit our top 10 and see if any of these films. I'm going to assume one movie's getting bumped from his list. Because he just told me Nickel Boys is his favorite film of the year.
I cannot stop thinking about that final montage. I cannot stop thinking about it. It's so brilliantly done. It felt so many moments I felt similarly. It felt like a mesh of things that I liked from other movies this year. It had the archival footage from Sacred Fig that I loved, and it had that weird cross-cutting from Do Not Expect Too Much from the End of the World, but it put it together so much more seamlessly.
Yeah, I like Nickel Boys. I gave it a solid B. I don't think it resonated with me as much. I'm not sure look, when it looked beautiful. I still love that shot of when the two of them look up at themselves in the mirror overhead, and I think that's
I couldn't believe that.
That's a really cool shot.
We spent so much time trying to figure out how they did
it. Yeah.
Wait, what's going on here?
Yeah.
I finally found some BTS and saw it, but
yeah. But so like I said, I gave it a B. Jackson, what does Nickel Boys get for you?
Nickel Boys gets a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. Still not a 10, though.
I'm gonna try to cash this again before it leaves, though.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
see Nickel
So we will be revisiting the top 10, but we still have 2 more movies to talk about, and maybe 1 or 2 or neither of these films from 2024 that we finally caught up with will resonate into our top 10, and we'll revisit that in a second. The first one is a film, in fact, both of them that we saw together. The first one is from director Gia Coppola. She is the niece of Sofia Coppola. You might have heard of Francis Ford. He had a great movie called Megalopolis out this year that was number 1 on one of my lists, and I'll give you a hint. It wasn't the best of 2024. This is a movie that has gained a lot more buzz because 2 big surprise Golden Globe nominations came out of it for both Pam Anderson and Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis, who of course won the Academy Award for Everything Everywhere All at Once. She will not have a chance to repeat that this year. The nominations
controversially won, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't think that was quite deserved, but I loved her in it. Dave Bautista is in this as well as Kiernan Shipka. It tells the tale of Pam Anderson, who is an aging showgirl in a much more older Vegas show, throwing back to the heyday of when people paid top dollar to watch topless girls walk around a stage with big feather boas, and it was all about pageantry. But now we're in the era of Cirque du Soleil and stunt shows and comedians, and these shows are closing, and the ladies who made these shows millions of dollars have nowhere to go. Buzz on Pam Anderson's performance in this, you know, I have a lot to say about Pam Anderson with this. The Last Showgirl, Jackson, what are your thoughts?
I think that, first off, my thoughts on Pam Anderson in this movie are fantastic. I loved her performance. I could tell that she was pulling from so many different places.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of Gina Rowlands in there. I saw a lot of Mulholland Drive. I'm forgetting her name. Why am I forgetting her name from Mulholland Drive?
The blonde or the brunette?
Yeah, why? Yeah, the blonde. Why am I totally blanking
Married
on?
to Leigh Schreiber.
No.
Yeah.
No, wait, why
she
am
was,
I not?
She was.
No,
she is married to Leigh Schreiber, I believe. The blonde in real life.
Naomi Watts.
Naomi Watts. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I don't know if she still is, but she was married to Leigh Schreiber.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Naomi Watts from Mulholland Drive, even a little bit of Isabella Adjani, but it really, really sucks that the movie seems to want to not let you focus on Pamela Anderson's performance, because this is one of the most distractingly shot and directed movies I've ever seen. I don't know what happened. The entire movie is shot on anamorphic lenses about this close to the actress's face, so that not only are their faces distorting on the edges, but they're shooting at a really shallow depth of focus, so only a tiny part of their faces are in focus at a time.
It was so annoying.
And that can work sometimes with movies, but a character study is not one of those times. It just felt aimlessly directionless. Pamela Anderson's puts as much nuance into this character as she can, but with a script that did not feel as complex as I wish it was.
Yeah.
Which is very unfortunate, because I want the best for Pam Anderson. I think that every time I hear her talk about being in this movie and about movies in general, she truly cares so much for the art and this project in general. But yeah.
Right. I agree with almost everything you say. The movie is way over-directed. There are just aimless shots of people, especially Pam Anderson, just kind of walking the streets of Vegas and looking around long. I'm like, how many more shots of her standing outside a casino
Right.
or her house or just looking? There's lots of aimless walking things. I think Jamie Lee Curtis was definitely a little over the top. I do give her credit for being, it's a brave performance. She puts it all out there.
Yeah, I bought it. I don't know if I could say it was Golden Globe nominee worthy, but I think she was good.
Yeah, and again, you know what? I like Dave Bautista in this. I really do wish he would stop doing schlock, because I think when he does things like the Blade Runner movie, or even though not a great film, but I thought he was very good in it, The Cabin and the Knock at the Cabin.
Knock at the Cabin,
and I think he's got real good chops. I wish he would stop doing these schlocky, straight-to-streaming crapola action movies. Here's what I'm going to say about Pam Anderson. I think Pam Anderson gave a great performance for Pam Anderson. And what I mean by that is I think half the work was just taking the makeup off. I think when you make yourself look dour,
I can't agree at all.
I think she did a really good job. And I'll tell you what, we're going to talk about another movie in a second where I go, put those two women in the same room. And
fair enough.
I think Pam Anderson. I think Pam Anderson did a great job as the best Pam Anderson could do. I don't know. She did not get an Oscar nomination today. I don't think she belongs in the same conversation as Mikey Madison and Demi Moore and some of the others that got nominated. I think that okay, here's my thing. I think that for a worse year for female performances, like this was a very very big year for female leads. Yes.
I think she could have had an easy nomination, but I think going up against the likes of the ones who were nominated, and even some of the ones that weren't,
right,
it can get buried.
I'm thrilled that she got a Golden Globe nomination. She's been brought to the party. People are taking her seriously. She's not just the Baywatch girl anymore. I think she did a very reputable job. I just don't think it's quite on that same level. With that said, since so much heart is given from her in this performance, and I think she's got a pretty strong supporting, I'm going to go right down the middle and give The Last Showgirl a C. I think it's a very average film.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you in every way. I'm trying to find my thing right now. I lost track. Yeah, I give it a 5, right down the middle.
Gotcha.
Yeah, disappointing for sure.
Yeah. So it doesn't look like that's going to be cracking into our top 10 from 2024. But one more movie that Jackson and I did see together. If you're fans of this podcast, and we appreciate all three of you that are, or if you know my son Jackson well, you know that probably one of his favorite screenwriter and directors is the British Mike Leigh. Mike Leigh has been very much in the vein, I would say, of David Lynch, telling the stories that he wants to tell in the way he wants to tell them.
Yeah.
And has never stepped out of that zone. He doesn't, jump in all as far as unless Jackson doesn't jump in and go, I'll do one for them, they'll do one for me.
No,
He's
never has.
No, he makes his films, and he definitely has a style. Look, I don't think anyone's going to watch any of his films and go, what groundbreaking technology did he use for that? But what he does know is framing. He knows camera movement.
Yes.
And I think his biggest strength, probably from the films that I've seen of his, is he knows how to work with actors. I think he is an actor's director. His latest movie, Hard Truths, was just opened here wide in the States, but came out briefly in 2024 so as to be up for award seasons. Has unfortunately not resonated well here. And to be honest with you, it didn't resonate in England as much as some of his other films has. It's done okay over there. It's gotten a few nominations, but it's not a runaway train. But then again, most Mike Leigh movies haven't. The biggest hit he's had here in the United States was his previous work with actress Marianne Jean-Baptiste, Secrets and Lies, which garnered a couple Oscar nominations way back in, I believe, the late 90s. I love that film, Secrets and Lies. I remember it fondly. It's been a long time since I've seen it. Hard Truths tells the tale basically of two sisters dealing with the traumatic loss of their mother and how differently death can affect the paths and the emotions that one feels when a family member like that lies, and how that resonates through the entire family. One of the daughters is single, a hairdresser, helping to conclude, I would say, raise two young girls who are now entering the workforce and finding their way in the world. And then there's Mary. That woman, by the way, was played exceptionally, that sister, by Michelle Austin. And then Marianne Jean-Baptiste is married with a son who is also kind of coming into his adulthood and trying to find himself if possible. And they both lead two very different lives and two entirely different paths and way of dealing with their pain. We saw this together. I'm not going to tell you what I thought about the movie as a whole, but I will tell you this. I think Marianne Jean-Baptiste delivers one of the best roles of the year. I don't know if I would... Listen, she should be at the party. The fact that she was not nominated today is a crime. I thought Cynthia Erivo was fine in Wicked. I wasn't the biggest fan of Emilia Perez.
Emilia Perez shouldn't be nominated.
So Carla Sofia. But the fact that she's not on this, because she is a powerhouse here. I don't know if it's a perfect performance. I do think at some points I know where it's going, and I wasn't surprised by a lot of it, but it is one hell of a piece of acting. As far as the movie goes, I'll save my thoughts on that till after Jackson interjects. Jackson, Hard Truths.
So the way that Mike Leigh directs, for those who don't know, is that before production, he will do months and months and months of improvisational rehearsals with the actors, sometimes spanning an hour, sometimes 8 hours of just moving around in the spaces that they choose to shoot, which is almost always on location, letting the actors create their own dialogue and build up their characters with each other. Mm-hmm. Most of the improv sessions don't even end up in the final film. It's mostly just to build character and figure out what you're doing. And I think that with time, this continues to be the best process to make these movies. I think that it's the only way to get these nuances out of characters that you would never see elsewhere. It's an immensely collaborative effort that gives the actors themselves more agency over their characters. And I think that Marianne Jean-Baptiste is one of the poster childs for how important it is for an actor to have say in their characters. Because when you're a director, you have to focus on everything. You have to focus on the camera. You have to focus on production design, on the actors, on location. There's so many things to focus on, but an actor just has to focus on their character. And so by making it a collaboration, I think that his process is unmatched. And that's no different here. Marianne Jean-Baptiste, I think, delivers one of the best performances of the year. I agree with everything you said. Do I think it was the best of the year? I don't know. It's really difficult. This was a great year for female performances. I think that there were so many fantastic ones. I think of Mikey Madison. I think of Demi Moore. And I also think about her. There's many moments in this movie. I thought, wow, she is doing things with her facial expressions. God, there's like a 2-minute uncut shot of her laughing and crying that just completely blew me away. But I also want to
she should be in the mix. She should be in the mix.
Yeah, she should be in the mix. I also want to say that this was a tough watch for me. This is the last movie that will ever be shot by my favorite cinematographer, Dick Pope, who passed away earlier this year, who has worked on virtually, I'd say, like 80% of Mike Leigh's films. They've been working together on every movie since... I want to say, I actually don't know which one they started working together on, but it's been a decade-spanning relationship between the two, and I think this is some of his best work. So many compositions in this movie completely blew me away. A brilliant use of negative space, and the whole movie made me very emotional. It's the last one from him. It's a movie that tackles so much about death. I think that my favorite moment of this whole film is when she sits in a chair and just looks outside, and you know that she wants to go outside, but she can't let herself do it, and she has this weird in between where she wants to walk outside but she doesn't, and I don't know.
So I'm gonna ask you something about that, because it was one of my pet peeves with the film, and maybe you can help explain it to me. There are these scenes where she's at home and she's fearful to go in her backyard or walk out the door or go outside. But then we'll cut to her in a grocery store. She's fine. Or there's a scene where she's walking down the street with her sister getting ready to head into their apartment. Or she's going to the cemetery to see her mom. But then we'll cut back to a scene at the house and she's completely freaking out because there's a door that's slightly open and something's going to get in from the outside. I had a hard time wrestling that. Even at one point, I almost wanted to lean over to you and go, is she afraid to go outside or is she not? Because she's getting around the city an awful lot. Well, I got the OCD thing just with the immaculate house and this is in place. And when the husband throws the flowers, and I won't go into specifics about that, but he knows that that's not going to last because she's not going to be able to handle anything differently. So I got the OCD in the house and the immaculation. It was that fear of the backyard and the going onto the patio that, I don't know. I felt like I was watching two. It was one of my things where I didn't quite get that. Yeah. Because at first I was like, she's got agoraphobia. She doesn't want to go out. And then she obviously went out in the world just fine.
I wouldn't say just fine, though. I mean,
she wasn't
pretty
freaking
much
out.
Every scene with her going outside, she has a complete meltdown in front of somebody.
Not in the cemetery. She has a meltdown when she confronts other people. But she seemed fine in the cemetery, walking in the sunshine and down the street and going to. And again, she has to get to all those places. So I don't know. Like I said, I started it by saying it's a bit of a pet peeve with me that I was like, it was in the back of my head gnawing, like I don't quite get her character when it comes to that aspect. And again, it's a little thing.
I think the only way I can justify that is probably just, I mean, it didn't, not that it bothered me, but I think that the only time we ever see her go out is because of a necessity. Okay. Grocery store for food. Right. Needed a new sofa. The cemetery to see her mother who passed away.
Right.
I don't know. I think that I'm understating it a bit. This is one of the best movies of the year. Oh. I just have to say that He's the best. You just don't see character work like this anywhere else. You just don't.
I think that it is one of the best performances of the year. I think it has some of the best moments of the year. I loved everything with her and her son and her husband. And I don't know the two actors' names who played her husband and son, but I've never seen two actors do more with so little, no dialogue. Yeah. And I understood everything they felt, said, the way they acted. I mean, they were full-on characters, and I don't think they had 5 lines between the two of them. Here's where the movie would lose me. I get that we have to see the other side of the coin, that we have to see her sister, and how death can and trauma can affect people differently in the paths that it leads. And we have to have that counterbalance. Marianne Jean-Baptiste's son is like this, but look at the daughters on the other side. I didn't care about those 2 scenes when they're at work. One of them is a beauty aid.
Oh, really?
Thing.
I thought that was really important.
And then another daughter's like messed something up at work, and the boss is like, okay, we're going to fix this. And then they have a lunch together, the 2 daughters, and they kind of like sugarcoat how good things are going. Like, no, my pitch went great. And, oh, my meeting, everything's good. And then there's a lot of scenes with the other sister, not Marianne Jean-Baptiste, at the hairdresser. She's a hairstylist. And there's even a few scenes with just other customers, and they have a monologue, and I'm like, we never hear about that character again. I don't really know how that pertained. Like, just little stories. And I'm kind of like, can we get back to the...
I don't know. I really like that stuff. I love that stuff.
I just didn't quite get the point of it.
Okay. Well, 2 things. The first thing I'll say is that I love the scene with the daughters who both have a terrible day at work and then come together and then don't talk about it at all. Because I think that without that, you can easily be like, well, why is Marianne Jean-Baptiste's character such an asshole? Like, she's dealing with, she's being so, like, I don't know, difficult to work with and, like, overtly truthful. And I think it's important to see that the flip side of that coin isn't a perfect life either. There's still complexities there. They're still masking themselves for the sake of a facade. And okay. I felt like that was really important. And I think that it was interesting watching this movie the day after watching Last Showgirl, because I think that this is this is the perfect contrast of like female character study that's not taken seriously versus someone who has such a grasp over the complexities of their character that it's impossible not to miss the themes. Because I think that something that Mike Leigh does fantastic too here is that you're explained why Marianne Jean-Baptiste is such a jerk to people. You eventually get there and you understand why her character is the way that she is. Mm-hmm. But it's never excusable. She's still an asshole.
Yeah.
She's still a dick to people, and it's never okay. But there's a level of empathy that you gain over time, and that's something that can only happen when you have someone like, I know I'm just completely, riding this guy right now, but with someone like Mike Leigh's at the helm of your movie, this is what happens.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
I get why all those story parts are in there. I didn't find it as compelling. I guess, let me put it that way. Even if there's a reason there,
that was just my take,
I was like, I'm not very compelled by this. I was riveted when we were in the other house. In the other house, I'm like, I felt the tension. I'm on pins and needles. Marianne Jean-Baptiste made me laugh, made me cry, made me nervous, made me sad for her family, made me fearful for her, and to start to, some points you're rooting for her, at other points you're not. And then whenever we went to that other side of the coin, whether it's justified or not or needed, I just wasn't as compelled by it. I was a little bit like, all right. So...
this is also another level for me of loving this movie is that I think that Mike Leigh has a very big through line throughout all his movies, and that's family.
Yeah.
Almost every one of his movies in some extent deals with family, lack of family you build for yourself. And so it's interesting because every one of his films, sometimes you can kind of catch things where you're like, that character reminded me a lot of this person from the other film, but if things were a little bit different for them. Where like her son reminded me of a character from... Working Girls? Is that the name of that movie that I'm thinking of? Career Girls.
Career Girls.
Or Marianne Jean-Baptiste, as different as they are, There's a lot of similarities in how they talk with her character here and the character of Johnny in Naked, played by David Thewlis. Just so many connections you can make, and I love that so much because you can see that every time he sits down, he just has to think about like, what haven't I been able to tackle yet? Like what's something that has to do with family, or what's a character that I want to learn more from that maybe we didn't capture the nuances here, and how can I revisit that topic and bring it back, but under a new light, with a new culture or a new group of people or a new form of actors. And yeah, so long story short, rest in peace to Dick Pope. I thought one of his strongest works to close out his career and life. And I wish the best for Mike Leigh. I wish many, 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 many more movies.
I'm sure he will. What are you giving Hard Truths, Jackson?
Hard Truths is getting a 9. This would have been my favorite movie of the year had I not seen Nickel Boys.
Oh, so there might be a shuffling here, ladies and gentlemen. Marianne Jean-Baptiste performance gets an A+. Fantastic. Over the moon. Hard Truths is going to get a very solid B for me. It is a...
Oh, we can get a B+ going. We can totally get a B+ going. I know I know you were laughing when she said that babies should don't eat pockets. I know that made you laugh.
That was a very funny line.
That's B+ material.
Very, very funny. I will give A+
That's
to her.
Material.
I will give
I don't know. I think
B+ to the joke. I'm going to give Hard Truths a B. A B. Listen,
all right, we'll pencil you in the B+, and we'll revisit it later.
We'll revisit it on my third screening of your Mike Leigh's. All right, well, you know what that means. Nothing has changed in my top 10 films of the year. Sing Sing still sits at the very top, followed by Anora, National Anthem, The Substance, Challengers, Better Man, A Real Pain, Heretic, Snack Shack, and My Old Ass. I still have not seen I'm Still Here. Maybe that'll break in. We will still save that adjustment. I have not seen The Apprentice. Maybe that one will sneak in. I don't know if any of the animated films, like I have not seen The Wild Robot or Flow. So I feel like my top 10 may be locked in. I do still want to see those 4 films. I think those are the only 4 floating out there that I feel, with the exception of some obscure foreign film that maybe... I don't know. I haven't seen All There Is Light. I've heard great things about that, although the Academy didn't care for it. So the window is still slightly open for my top 10 to change for the year, but I have a feeling it's probably set in stone. But I am happy to say that both Hard Truths, maybe just Hard Truths, would have made my honorable mention list. And may have snuck into the top 20. However, Jackson has said great things. So I guess, Jackson, the question is, as I look at your list here, from 10 up, Dee Dee, Furiosa, Kinds of Kindness, The Substance, Dune Part 2, Nosferatu, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, Sing Sing, my favorite film of the year, Challengers, which was also high on my list, and Anora, which was right up there as well. Well, is Hard Truths going to make the list? And is Nickel Boys going to make the list? And are we saying goodbye to Dee Dee and Furiosa?
Here is the new list. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Starting with number 10.
Number 10, Number 10, Nosferatu.
Oh, it dropped after rewatching, but it's still in the top 10. Okay,
but it hung on there.
Okay.
Number 9, Kinds of Kindness.
Okay.
Number 8, The Substance.
Okay, still right
Number 7, Dune Part 2.
Okay.
Number 6, Seed of the Sacred Fig.
Oh man. Okay.
Number 5 is Sing Sing.
Oh, you dropped Sing Sing, you son of a bitch.
Number 4 is Challengers. Number 3 is Anora.
Wow.
Number 2 is Hard Truths.
Hard Truths.
And number 1 is Nickel Boys.
Wow, 2 films take over the number 1 and number 2 spot.
If someone would distribute their goddamn movies, then this wouldn't have to happen. Neon A24.
I invited you to Nickel Boys screening. I have the screeners. You've just been so busy.
Okay, but if there's only one day that I can see a movie, then your distribution fail.
That is
Neon,
true.
get your shit together.
All
A24,
right,
get your shit together.
We will. I will make the amendments on his new list. So Nosferatu plummets to number 10 after a rewatch, but still one of the 10 best films of the year. And there you have it, Jackson's new #1 Nickel Boys. I'm so proud of myself. I knew when I watched that movie, I was like, that's going to be Jackson's favorite movie of the year. I'm telling you.
Man, they did so much. I didn't even get to talk about so much of the crazy shit they did. Like all the parallels. There's so many moments.
There you have it.
And this is the last thing I'll say about it, and then I'll stop
it's
talking
best
about
film of the year. You're allowed to.
There's one 3-second shot in this movie that completely floored me, and there's a tiny little moment in a montage where there's a kid playing with army, like green army men.
I kind of remember that.
In his food, and the guy whose POV we're in goes like, "What the hell are you doing, man?" And he looks up and he just goes like, and then starts playing with them again, and you just get hit with this wave of like, "Oh my God, they're just fucking kids."
Right.
They're just kids.
Yeah.
Like that's it. That's the whole movie. Ugh, just heartbreaking. Nickel Boys. Please go see that movie.
All right, there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're into award season. Golden Globes, Jackson, what was your takeaways before we run down a few of the Oscar things and we'll get out of here? What'd you think? Did you watch them? Did you just catch the results?
I caught the results. I wasn't able to make the live showing.
Nikki Glaser did a good job. She did.
Yeah, I heard she was great. I saw some clips that looked very funny.
Yeah.
Emilia Perez, really? We're going to be doing this? Is this where we're going? Is this where we're headed? I don't know. Did everyone take crazy pills? Like, I don't understand.
Well, now, did you see Emilia Perez? You have not.
No, and I won't.
Okay. Well, listen.
And I won't.
But listen, I don't think you can jump on. And there's a big hater train right now, and I get it. But I don't know if you're fully allowed a ticket on the hater train unless you see the actual train. I feel like
I accept that. This is what I'll say. If you're a French person and you're making a movie about Mexico
right.
and about issues that are important to the Mexican people, and you openly brag that you did no research about Mexico on your movie about Mexico, you have lost me.
Yeah.
And you are, in my eyes, you are no longer deserving of my time. I'd rather watch a movie like Nickel Boys, which is culturally important and respectful to the people that it's talking about, or I don't know, any other movie. Nosferatu was better researched than Emilia Perez, and it's fantasy. So
Robert Eggers actually hung out with vampires. I don't know if you know that or not. He did.
He did do that.
Okay, I'm going to, as you know, Emilia Perez was not on my top 10 of the list. It wasn't even an honorable mention. I believe I gave it a C. I think there are things that work really well. I think Zoe Saldana is fantastic in it, in the lead performance, because the movie is about her. If you watch the movie, it's about her. I am not a member of the transgender community, so I cannot really speak on whether or not I feel it's a fair representation of that. I am certainly not Latino, so I cannot speak on whether or not it is a fair representation of that. I don't think that anyone made this movie out of malice. Maybe they made it out of ignorance or blissfully ignored what may or may not be important to other people. So I don't get any kind of like, boy, what are they trying to say about this? I think more than anything, it is a human story at its heart that does take some political turns and ramifications at the end, I think only because maybe that's the way the story dictates it. But I did not read that much into it. But again, I don't come from a perspective where I'm allowed to. I simply am looking at the film as, did it entertain me? Did it interest me? Did it move me? Was I vested? And I came away very middle of the road C. I think some of the music works, some of it doesn't. I think some of the performances were okay, and I think other ones were great. Like I said, Zoe Saldana probably going to win, should have been lead actress, and I have no problem with that. But there is a lot of backlash on it right now. But I also think that a lot of the backlash is because it's not that great of a film. And it is it received 13 nominations today, the most. It's only 4 other films have received 13 nominations, and only one has received 14, which was one more than that. So I don't know if it deserves to be up there. I don't know how long if the backlash will have any effect. I will tell you this, though. I think this is one of the more interesting Oscar seasons and award seasons that we've had. It's really been kind of all over the planet on this. Fernando Torres won the Golden Globe and now sneaks in and wins the Oscars. 1 minute you think Pamela Anderson, 1 minute you think Angelina Jolie is in or out. People are talking about The Brutalist. Obviously, it's getting picture and director, but are Guy Pearce and Felicity Jones going to get in? I think it's kind of... Here's the thing. It's a really interesting award season about a lot of really average films. Jackson, out of the 10 movies nominated today, only 2 films, 2 from my top 10 list were nominated, and only 4 films off of your top 10 were listed. Nora,
this sucks,
Dune, Nickel Boys, and The Substance. The Brutalist did not make our top 10. A Complete Unknown you did not see, but certainly did not make my top 10. Conclave did not make our top 10. Amelia Perez did not. Now, I'm Still Here we've not seen yet. Everything I have heard about that movie is that is a Fernando Torres vehicle, very much like A Real Pain is like a Kieran Culkin vehicle. So I don't know if I'm going to walk away from it going the movie or her. Nickel Boys, we said, is in. The Substance, and then, of course, Wicked did not make either one of our top 10 lists. So for me, it's kind of one of these Oscar seasons where I go, ugh. But what were you going to say?
The second the Oscar nominations came out, what do you think the first thing I checked was?
Did Marianne Jean-Baptiste get nominated?
That was like the second or third thing I checked.
Did Mike Leigh get directed or nominated, or Hard Truths?
Did Wicked get nominated for Best Cinematography? And it didn't.
It didn't, and that made you very happy.
We can take it. It just there were movies that deserved it more, and Dune Part 2 got in there, and Wicked did not, and a lot of good stuff in there, and that's enough for me. Although Nickel Boys got snubbed.
Cinematography: The Brutalist, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, Maria.
It's Ed Lockman. He's a guy. I didn't see Maria, but Ed Lockman is like a master. So I'm sure that's deserved.
All right. And Nosferatu. As Jackson just mentioned, Nickel Boys did not make this list. I think the more shocker on this one is Challengers did not make cinematography, which I think is a shame. And if we're going to talk about...
That DP had 4 movies come out this year, and he didn't get nominated, and all of them looked fantastic, so I'm very upset about it.
Yeah, and if we're going to talk about Challengers, I mentioned it on the show a few weeks ago. Reznor and Atticus, they won the Golden Globe for Best Score for Challengers. Did not even get nominated for Best Score.
They didn't get nominated?
No.
I didn't even know that.
No, did not even get nominated for Best Score.
What was nominated? Okay, because if they're not nominated, that means that Dune Part 2 was ineligible to get nominated, which was my second choice.
It was The Brutalist, Conclave, Amelia Perez, Wicked, and The Wild Robot. Best Score. Trent Reznor just won the Globe and did not even get an Oscar nomination for Challengers, which, by the way, the best score of the year. I'd say Conclave is up there, and as much as I didn't care for The Brutalist overall, the music was pretty damn good.
It's a great score. Yeah,
it's a great score. I don't know. Amelia Perez, the most nominated film this year. Wicked had a lot as well. The Brutalist also had a lot as well. Films that were out, obviously I'm pissed. My number one film of the year, Sing Sing, did not get Best Picture nominee. A Real Pain.
Coleman Domingo did sneak in there, though, which made me very happy.
He did. And Nosferatu, which you said on a second viewing, that did not make it as well. Or A Real Pain. What about directors? The big surprise here, Jackson, was unlike the DGA, they took out Ed Berger for Conclave, and they put in Coralie Farjai for The Substance. Do you like that? Agree with that? Or I'm sure you probably would have rather see James Mangold go, though, wouldn't you? Over for A Complete Unknown. He's in there. We got Jacques. Or take out Jacques.
Go through the list.
So we have Jacques Audier for Amelia Perez, Sean Baker, Honora, Brady Corbet, The Brutalist, Coralie Farjai, The Substance, and James Mangold for A Complete Unknown. Out, obviously, Denis Villeneuve did not get nominated. But after the DGA snub, I think you almost have to expect he's probably not getting into the Academy either.
This is what you do. You take out Mangold. You take out Amelia Perez. And I'm glad they took out Berger because I think that he's done better directing in his career.
Okay, so
I like the Courgette replacement. You get Rami. What was his name? I'm forgetting. From
Ramel
Nickel
Ross.
Boys.
Ramel Ross.
Ramel Ross.
Uh-huh.
You get Ramel Ross in there.
And who's your fifth?
And you get Denis. And
Denis
you get Denis.
Villeneuve.
You put
Okay.
Denis in there.
So you got Sean Baker, Brady Corbet, Coralie Farja, Denis Villeneuve, and Ramel Ross. That would be your
Yep.
two. All right.
And you nominate Mike Leigh for writing. That's what you do. That's the path.
That's the
journey that we take.
That's the way.
That's how you got. That's the mental Jenga I'm doing in my head.
All right. Well, speaking of screenplays, Adapted was a complete unknown. They loved a complete unknown, by the way. Also, like 12 nominations for a complete unknown.
Yeah.
Conclave, that's probably your winner. Amelia Perez. Nickel Boys did get a screenplay nomination.
Yeah.
As well as Best Picture.
Very happy for them.
And Sing Sing got an adapted screenplay, even though it doesn't get filmed, so it doesn't stand a chance. So I don't think anything's touching Conclave there, but I'm glad to see Sing Sing, and I'm sure you're glad to see.
Nickel Boys got a Best Film nomination. What are you talking about?
No, Sing Sing didn't get a Best Film.
Yeah.
Nickel Boys did. Your original screenplays, no huge surprises here. Honora, The Brutalist, A Real Pain, September 5, which pretty much this is the only thing September 5 got, and The Substance. The Substance doing very well as...
Yeah.
But do you think it's winning anything? Is The Substance winning
I think
anything?
that Demi Moore might be their only chance, and even then I'm a little bit worried because I think that's going to Mikey Madison. But
Yeah.
maybe special effects
Makeup?
maybe.
Makeup?
Yeah, maybe.
Actress in a lead role: Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Carla Sofia Gascon, Amelia Perez, Mikey Madison, Honora, Demi Moore, The Substance, and Fernanda Torres. We talked about we still have to see, and I'm Still Here. She was kind of the surprise if there was one. They didn't know if that was going to maybe be Pam Anderson or Angelina Jolie. This is a 2-horse race. It's Mikey or Demi. I don't know which one. I'm not sure. I'll wait and see who I'm going to go for on that.
Yeah.
And then I guess before we wrap things up,
Best actor, but you didn't do best actor. Did you?
I was looking for. Best actor in a lead role is we had Adrian Brody, obviously for The Brutalist. Timothy Chalamet, no surprise there. Coleman Domingo, no surprise. And then where was my the other two? Oh, there they are. Ray Fiennes, Conclave, and then I guess the snub here was Daniel Craig. A lot of people were saying he was going to get it for Queer, but it went to Sebastian Stan, not for A Different Man, but for The Apprentice. You like The Apprentice, right?
Yeah, I didn't love it, but I liked it.
Do you think that was a top 5 performance of the year, Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice?
To be honest. Okay, to be honest, I'm gonna give you a hot take here.
Yeah.
This would never in a million years happen, but if it was up to me, the dad from Seed of a Sacred Fig would be in there.
Oh.
But he's not,
wow.
so that blows.
Okay. He was very good in that.
That's what I got.
I don't know who I would put in. I'd have to look back at realistically, I could pick a film like National Anthem, but I know nobody on God's green earth saw that. Would I put, you know who I would put in, to be honest with you? I'd put in Hugh Grant for Heretic. I knew he didn't have a chance, but
I didn't see it, but I heard nothing but good things.
I loved him in that.
I think he's a great actor, so I don't mind that.
Yeah, and then lastly, I was a little sad. I know a lot of people were holding out. I was, especially because I love Sing Sing, for Clarence Macklin to get supporting actor. For that, he did not. Instead, that went to the FISPA. The four front runners: Yura Borisov for Honora, deserved. Kieran Culkin, deserved. Edward Norton, A Complete Unknown, deserved. Guy Pearce, The Brutalist, deserved. Jeremy Strong, The Apprentice, took that last slot. I would have given it to Clarence Macklin, but
I think that Jeremy Strong deserves that nomination more than Sebastian Stan deserves
the
lead actor nomination.
Really,
Jeremy Strong is incredible as that terrible attorney guy. I'm forgetting what his name is right now. Roy Cohn. Roy Cohn.
Yeah.
He is the core of that movie. Yeah.
And then I think the only other category really that we'd be interested in, we'll talk about, we'll probably spend the whole entire next episode talking about live short documentary. We're both huge into that.
Just binging those, yeah.
What about production design? Brutalist, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nosferatu, and Wicked. I think this is actually a pretty competitive category because
I agree, and honestly, I'm kind of pissed off that The Substance didn't make its way in because I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, I would put that in instead of Wicked.
Yeah, I agree.
But who would you go? Just if you were picking Brutalist, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nosferatu, Wicked, what would you... You like God?
Brutalist.
The Brutalist. Yeah, it's hard to argue with that, especially knowing the budget.
Maybe not.
Wouldn't go
I
Nosferatu.
don't know, that AI news kind of put a wrench in the Brutalist. So maybe not that, but I don't know. I'll that honestly, that's one of the hardest categories you've said so far.
Yeah,
I feel like
I do too.
That's a close race.
That's a competitive one. All right. Well, in the coming weeks, as we let it all percolate and we get closer to the Oscars, Jackson and I will be on, and we'll do our yearly predictions where we go head to head and we find out just how many he's going to lose by when it comes down to our predictions for the winners.
It's because my heart's too big. I love too much. I love the movies that I love too much, and it clouds my judgment.
Every year I tell him, buddy, pick a winner who was actually nominated. He's like, nope, I'm sticking with this film. I think it still has a chance.
Here's my thing. Every time I'm like, okay, you know what? I love this movie. It's probably going to go to the other one. The one that I want to win wins. And I'm like, so what? There's no winning. It's a weird middle ground that I haven't been able to crack yet.
What's the point?
Maybe this is my year. Who knows?
Maybe. We'll be back hopefully next week or the week after. Let's see how things go. Opening in theaters this weekend is that Mel Gibson movie, Flight Risk. He's back behind the director's helm and making Mark Wahlberg wear a bad bald cap. Also, a movie.
He is the spokesperson for Hollywood now, self-appointed. So
I know.
I guess we got to pay attention to that movie now.
Good Lord. Also, a movie that I don't know. Steven Soderbergh has a horror movie this weekend coming out called Presence. Which looks interesting. We're both probably going to check that out this weekend. A little ghost story told from the perspective. Look, Nickel Boys. One guy wants to do one movie from POV of a character, and now here we are. We got to have all these POV movies. I want to do the POV of a ghost. I want to do the POV of the milkman. It's going to be every POV thing.
Oh, yeah. There's a new trend coming up.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll go see a 10:30 screening of Inheritance at Universal Walk of whatever, but I don't think that's happening. Also out on Amazon Prime this week, there's a new documentary called This is the Tom Green documentary that I'll probably check out. So we'll try to sneak on next week, maybe for a short show, because my God, here we are going over an hour and a half again. But we had a lot to cover. Listen, next couple months, there's only like one movie a week that Jackson's going to see, and he's going to give it a 2, and we'll be in and out of here real quick, so we won't put you through this every time. In the meantime, please make sure to like and subscribe to the PGN podcast on the YouTube channel, as well as follow us on Instagram and as well on there, and spread the word, for God's sakes. We're not in this for the money. We love talking movies. We occasionally love each other, and it's a good way to catch up and civilly dispute. Again, I don't think any huge disagreements. I think if I had come out and said Hard Truth was a piece of garbage, we might have had a little.
We would have had a scuffle there.
Probably
would
have had a little bit of a scuff, but we came out unscathed. Follow my son on all social media at Jackson N. That's an extra N at the end there. Burns on the TikTok, if it's still up. As well as Insta and all other social media.
It's pretty much it's Instagram. I deleted Twitter this week. I couldn't do it anymore.
Oh, he's off the X.
It was getting too depressing. I was like, I'm getting on it. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah,
I'm jumping ship.
All right, look for him on Blue Sky real soon. And I'm an Insta guy, so Regan.Burns, and follow us at PGN Podcast on Instagram. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for sticking in for the full hour and a half if you made it this far. And again, any comments and likes. Oh, and I don't have one to announce, but since we only have a couple movies next week, I'll put something on the Instagram. We'll have a fun little game next week and a top 10 list. We're going to put together another one of our fun little top 10 lists.
Nice.
For our next show. Since how long are we going to talk about Mark Wahlberg in a bald cap or a ghost story? So.
Oh, Mark.
All right. So we'll see you guys then. Thanks for listening. Love you, buddy.
Love you too. Bye.